Welcome to the Troutfitter Podcast with your host, Kent Rianda. So in this podcast, we're going to talk about guides and why they might be valuable and who should consider using them. So the first question, Kent, is, what is a guide and why would someone want to use a guide?
Well, it's really, there's a wide range. Well, I guess we'll start out with the guy that's paying a couple $100 a day to go fishing is no big deal. He can afford it. He wants to spend the money and he wants to just have his best opportunity to catch the most fish. He might hire a guide every single time he goes fishing. All of his guides would love to have a customer like that that book you over and over and over. But you have to be pretty well-heeled because it costs pretty much money. So that's one end of the spectrum. The other end, you might have somebody that's just never really caught any fish and figure, well, gee, I better go out one day and catch, at least see if we can catch fish one day. And that's why they hire the guide. They're really ill-advised. That's not the way to do it. What you need to do is use a guide when they've got information that you want that'll make you be a better fisherman more quickly than learning it on your own. So I always say, who hires guides more than anybody? Other guides. I hired a guide literally 2 days ago. I'm down here in the ocean now. I hired an ocean guide. I could probably go out there and figure it out over a period of time. But why waste all that time when I could be catching fish by asking just a few simple questions? What kind of flies are we using? How deep are we fishing? How are we doing it? Getting the setup. That kind of information can be given to you by a guide, and that's what you want to do, is hire a guide to learn from. Now, how often you hire a guide? Sometimes you just need to get that head start. If you've never fished before, get a beginner's course, get started. If you're a little better, take a little more advanced guide and ask him more questions, do more advanced work. And when you think you need a tune-up or want to get more tuned in on something you don't know how to do, including in fishing a specific technique or a specific zone. In other words, you might come and say, hey, I want to hire a guide. Yeah, I want to learn how to fish Hot Creek. I never catch any fish in Hot Creek. Show me how to fish Hot Creek. And that way the guide specifically targets your capability to fish that one location. The other possibility would be, hey, what's this 10-car rod stuff? What's this check nymphing? What are these techniques I hear about that I don't know anything about? Guide will take you out, show you those techniques, make you much better at it, or at least the ability to do it. And some of these techniques are new and innovative in better ways to catch fish. Check nymphing is definitely just almost the way to catch fish these days. That's the way people are doing their setups.
What can one expect on a guide trip on Crowley in specific, Kent? What is an average day being guided on Crowley look like?
Well, the average day on Crowley, now most days that are done on Crowley, if they're wise, are done as half-day sessions. This half-day session is 4 to 5 hours, depending on which guide service you're using. And trout fly, we give a full 5 hours on the water. The half-day basically is wise for two reasons. One, the bite is usually starts anywhere 8, 9 o'clock and is over in about 3 hours, and then it doesn't start for another 3 hours. So the cycle, basically the feeding cycle when it's good is about every 6 hours. Well, that means for sure then during your 8-hour full day trip, you're going to have 2 hours where the fish are not biting and you're not going to be doing any catching of any fish during that 2 hours. So your 8-hour trip just became a 6-hour trip. And for a 5-hour trip, if you go to the Troutfitter anyway, it's considered a half-day trip, a lot less money, and that's the way we do it. The other reason is wind. The wind comes up by 1 o'clock on Crowley, 10, 15 miles an hour, waves big enough to make it uncomfortable to fish, and everybody goes in. So that's the way that Crowley works as far as the wind, and that's the other thing you avoid by doing half-day sessions. What you can expect is anywhere from going out there and scratching and fishing hard and catching, maybe one or two or three fish in 4 or 5 hours. That's when the Daphne is out. The fish are eating Daphne. It becomes extremely difficult. Then you've got other times that are just kind of average. You'd go out there in that same 4 or 5 hours, you'd catch 3, 4, 5 fish during that period of time, about a fish an hour. And then other times of the year when it gets really good, you'd go out there and catch about 15 fish in that 5 hours. And several of them would be pretty big. And then there's these days, once in a while, when it goes off the rails, and you basically haul them in as fast as you can catch them. You get a grab every minute, and it goes on for 2 or 3 hours straight. So you can imagine how many fish. You lose a lot still, but how many you do land. So that's the range of how Crowley. You always shake your head and say it can either be so easy or so tough, and you never know what it is today.
So I'm going to ask a loaded question, Kent. Is success guaranteed?
No, I would say success is definitely not guaranteed, but I think pretty much the guides, if it's going to be bad, if it's going to be this 0, 1, 2, 3 maybe fish, if you're lucky, the guide will tell you the night before and give you the option of not going. Pretty much we pride ourselves in never, a guide saying, well, I know it's going to be terrible out there, but I still need to make the money tomorrow, so I'm going to take my customers and go. Different guides have different ways of handling that. Sometimes they give you a rain check. You will pay for that day, but then you're owed another free day. But at any rate, we're not going to make you go out on a day when the fishing isn't good. So you will know that. Now, or be given the option. Sometimes it's like, man, I don't know. It's been pretty rough out there. If it stays rough like it's been, we may only catch 1 or 2 fish each. Is that okay with you guys? And, oh, yeah, we love it. We'll go anyhow. Sometimes, and they go, and sometimes they're sorry they did it. But then other times you go out there and you think it's really going to be bad. It's really pretty darn good. So sometimes it goes the other way. But for sure, the guide's going to be in touch with you. And if you ask him, how do you really expect it to be tomorrow? Is it worth it to go? That's the question. But he should already be telling you that without you having prompted him.